All right. What's up, Steven? So this is video number 2 here. Lesson number dos. I've got it written out here for you. I've got a few licks, and I've got a cool little classic rock riff here at the end that we can do. So just kind of a recap of what we did last week. We were talking about starting real small, just taking a few notes at a time, 3, 4, maybe 5 notes, and building little licks. So something like this. I think we're in the key of A, so something like... And then kind of moving that around the fretboard, so... Little variation there at the end. But you get the point. And basically what you do is you just start real small, and that's how you can start to build a solo, is just taking a few notes at a time and not getting overwhelmed with the idea of like, oh, I've got this whole pentatonic scale here that I can play out of. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to end it. It's easier just to take little bits and pieces, little sections of it, and start there. So I got a couple things today that kind of go with that. And I want to talk real quick before we kind of dig into it. This idea that I've had ever since I was just a wee little kid playing guitar. And it's something that like guitar players are told since the beginning of time, and that's whenever you start a solo, you start real low and you build your way up. And when you start low, you have all these dynamics to build to. So you start real low down here, you know, and then you start to build yourself up. And as the solo progresses, you get higher and higher up the neck, and you make funnier faces. You play faster with more aggression or feeling or whatever they tell you. I think that's all just wrong. And I used to not think that way until maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And I think that entire philosophy of playing like that is wrong. And the reason why I think that is because dynamics work in 2 ways. So you can start real low and work yourself up, or you can start real high and work yourself down. And I kind of got this idea from listening to jazz guys. And I promise this all ties into what you're wanting to do today about moving up and down the fretboard. I got really into listening to like Coltrane and Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk, stuff like that. And I'm not a jazz guitar player at all, but their idea of improvising, Coltrane summed it up the best. He had a quote that said, "I like to start in the middle and I move both directions at the same time." So over the last few months, what I've been doing is kind of using that idea. So even if I'm playing like a slow blues song, where normally in my kind of old style of playing, I would start real low when it came time for a solo. I would go. Kind of moving myself up the fretboard as the solo went on. Now, when I start that solo, I may come out the gate swinging. Before I make it all the way down here, and then I'll end up way up here and back and forth. But the idea is that I'm using the entire neck. I'm using the entire fretboard. I'm going from the lowest point that I can possibly make work for a song, even if it means I have to detune to get a note I want to get, or I'm going way up here. This guitar is easy because I got 24 frets. Normally I'm playing a telly, which if you're playing a telly, if you ever get a telly, if your neck pickup is set at the right place, it's different on every guitar, but I'm real lucky on one that I got. I can actually use that neck pickup as a 24th fret if I want to really get up there. I can push the string down on it. But I'm using the entire thing, and that's kind of what you were wanting to talk about today. And that's where this mindset and everything kind of comes from, is starting in the middle and working both directions at the same time. So today we're going to be in the key of E. So we're here, we got our E minor pentatonic scale. You probably already know that. If you don't, it's real simple. It's 0, 3, and then 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 3, and 0, 3. That's our E minor pentatonic scale, kind of a basic position down here. When we come up here, we're on our 12th fret. We're doing the same thing, we're just up an octave. And again, you probably already know this, but it's 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15, and back to 12 to end it. And I want to make one note too. I'm showing you this scale this way. This is the way a lot of people do it. I hardly ever find myself actually playing the first few notes like this. I'm oftentimes doing this. I'm going 12, and then on my A string I'm going 10, 12, 14, and so on like that. It's kind of hard to see what I'm doing here with my pick. Try and get a little bit closer. I'm alternate picking, so I'm going up and down with it. So down, up, down, up, down, up. It's good practice to kind of get in that habit of going up and down with your pick. I don't do it all the time. I do what's called hybrid picking, so I'm playing with my fingers too. So I've got my fingers working and my pick all working together. So that last little lick I just did there. And get my guitar loud enough. I'm moving all the way from way up here to down here, and I'm going to show you how that works. So I've got it written out here, lick number 1, and we'll get to that lick here in just a minute. So basically all I'm doing is playing a pentatonic scale that's moving from up here to down here and going through 2 octaves, and it sounds like this. It's just basically one giant pentatonic scale. So rather than doing this, I'm doing this. Kind of see if I can get the whole neck here in this camera. So it's... That's lick number 1. We got it written out here, and I'll get you a picture of this for sure. And I'll kind of walk you through it here. So on our E string, our high E, we're starting on 12, and we're going 12, 10. On our B string, we're going 12, 10, 8. On our G, we're going 9. That's 9 and 7. Then on D, we're going 9, 7, 5. Then on A, we're going 7. That's 7 and 5. And then on low E, we're going 7, 5, 3, and ending it with a 0. So we've worked ourselves from the very high end of the neck all the way down to the low end. Oop, let's see if we can do that without making any bloopers here. So that's all for the key of E. That's an E minor pentatonic scale. And again, I'm alternate picking this. So this is good practice to sit here and just run through this. Just over and over and over again. I use this idea, I use this scale, this shape, pattern, whatever you want to call it, all the time. I pull licks out of this shape, out of this idea. Like 80% of the time, my stuff comes from that. So I'm not doing this. I still play in that shape. I still do those licks and stuff, but a lot of what I do has shifted into this. Because it moves me around the fretboard a lot more, so I'm not just kind of stuck in one position. I can still do all this stuff if I want to. But if I want to get down here, sometimes I'll just jump straight down and play something, but a lot of times I work myself down there. And that's that idea of kind of shaping a solo and working both directions at the same time. So I'll do something like this. I'll go... kind of combining three different ideas. So I'm using this idea here. I'm using this idea. That was lick number 1. And then I'm using this scale way down here. So I'm kind of combining three little shapes. And it's probably way too fast to play. I probably shouldn't play that fast. But sometimes I get in a habit of doing it and I can't stop. It's not always a good thing. So let's talk about lick number 2. Lick number 2 is kind of the same thing, but it's more of just a real traditional kind of pentatonic scale. It's a little bit different. This is lick number 2. Let me walk you through this. So this starts on 7 on the A string, and then we're going on the D string. We're going 5, 7, 9. Then on G we're going 7, 9. On B we're going 8, 10. And then for our high E we're jumping back to 7, 10, and then ending on 12. So it's a slight variation rather than, lick 1 was this. Kind of a big monster lick. This one, number 2, is just a scale, and it's a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable. But I love this shape, and I love this scale here, so anytime I'm playing, we're talking like what Coltrane said of starting in the middle and moving both ways, rather than starting down here or starting way up here. I'll start here in the middle of the neck. So if the solo song's coming around and it comes time for the solo, so I'm playing basic pentatonic licks, and I'm using this shape. You can throw in your little blues notes if you want to. So in this case, your blue note would be on the D string here on the 8th fret. Let's see. And then you got the B string here on the 11th fret. So what I like to do with a lot of my students here is I've just gave you like 2 cool little licks, little runs, little scales. Learn these both ways. So learn them, like lick number 1 was this. Learn it this way. So you can do it backwards and forward. When you do that, then you can really understand what it is you're playing. And I got a couple other licks here too I'm going to show you. This is lick number 3. This is kind of one of my favorite little licks here. It goes like this. Make sure I got my guitar high enough so you can see it here. I'll kind of I got this written out. I'll work you through it here. Let me do it slow here. So it starts on the 10th fret here on the B string, and then I'm jumping down to the high E string and I'm going 7, 10, and then I'm doing this little hammer on and pull off. So I'm doing this. I'm only playing once. See if I can get my guitar high enough here so you can see what I'm doing here on my E string. And get my leg up here. Alright, so I'm doing this. It's a hammer on and pull off. So I'm only playing once, and I'm hammering on to 10 and pulling off. So it's real quick. And you don't have to do it fast, and you don't even have to do a hammer on and pull off. If you want, you can just pick it if you want to. It's totally up to you. So the rest of the lick we got, and we'll just kind of start over here at the beginning. We got 10 on B, 7 on our high E, 10 on our high E, Then we do the hammer on and pull off that goes 7, 10, back to 7. And then I'm doing 10 on B. And then I'm playing on the B string 8 twice. So I'm going... And I'm ending on 9 on the G. It's a cool lick. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to use the whole thing. You know, if you just like bits and pieces, you can... It's kind of got an Eric Clapton vibe to it. And like with all of our licks, it's good to try and learn it in different places. So you've also got it way up here in this shape. So that's one thing you can experiment with. I got another one here too that I love to play. I play this one all the time. This is lick number 4. It sounds like this. Let me turn my volume up a little bit here. So it goes like this. Again, kind of using that same pentatonic shape. And it goes like this. Whoop, not like that. That's lick number 4. It starts here on the B string on the 10th fret. And I'm sliding, so I'm playing once. And I'm sliding up to 12. Try and mute some of these strings out. So 10, slide up to 12. Now I'm using my ring finger for this. Then I'm playing, with my first finger, I'm playing the 10th fret of the high E. Then I'm playing 12 on the B again, and I'm sliding back to 10. Then I'm playing 8 on B, and I'm finishing it with 9 on G. Add a little vibrato there at the end. We can talk about vibrato maybe in our next video or something. Some vibrato and bending and things like that. I use that lick all the time too. And again, it's one that you don't have to use the whole thing. You can just use bits and pieces of it. So a lot of times I'll do this. I'll just slide from 10 to 12, back to 10, and pull off to 8. So that's kind of a little bit of both licks there. So that's kind of combining a little bit of the licks we had last week with these two licks here that we got. So our last one, this is our classic rock riff here. This is Carry On My Wayward Son. I'm sure you know the song. Everybody kind of knows the song. It sounds like this. It's cool because it has kind of the same movements of the 2 or 3 licks that I showed you just a couple minutes ago. It all kind of molds together. So this song is actually in the key of A, so it's kind of based off of this A minor pentatonic scale here. And again, we're coming down here and playing rather than doing this. Same thing, just a different position. So let me work yourself through it here. It starts on 5 on the low E, and we're gonna go 5, 3, 5, and then we're gonna play 3 on our A string. And I got this, let me show you here. You can see it's down here. I've got it broken up into little sections. 4 little sections here that you can see. That way you don't have to tackle the whole thing all at once. So that first one is 5, 3, 5 on our low E, and then it ends on the A string on 3. Then we do basically the same thing again, 5, 3, 5, but this time we're going to end on the 5th fret on our A string. So it goes 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5, and then from there we're going to take that 5 and we're going to slide it up to 7, and then we're going to play 5 on our D string, so we got on D, back to 7 on our A string, slide down to 5, all on our A string, 3 on our A string, so back to 5 on our A string, and we go 5, 3, 5, 2. One more time. 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5. 5, slide up to 7, 5 on D, 5 on A, slide to, or sorry, 7 on A, slide to 5 on A, 3 on A, 5 on A, that's 3 on E, 5 on A, 2 on E. Cool, so there's our lesson number 2. Again, if you ever have any questions or anything like that, just let me know. Shoot me a message, a text, call me, whatever you want to do. Let me know. If this stuff wasn't helpful at all, let me know. You want to do something else, that's totally cool. I hope this kind of helps you move around the fretboard a little bit. The cool thing about these licks that I showed you is, and just the cool thing about guitar in general is, everything is movable to different keys, so if you want to do this all in the key of D, you just move everything down 2 frets. So now rather than going like 12, 10, 12, 10, you just move everything down. So it's like 12, 8, or sorry, 10, 8. So I use this stuff. These licks right here are some of my favorite go-to licks. I use them like seriously 80% of the time. This is the kind of stuff I'm doing. I'm just moving in and out of these licks here. And also what I did, and let me make one note here, let me grab this. I've circled all of the root notes here. So let me show you here. So here's our thing. It's kind of hard to see, but all the notes that are in circles, those are all our E notes. Since we're in the key of E, those are all E's. So if you're jamming around and you need a place to kind of land or whatever, you're trying to use this stuff to improvise, just land on one of those circled notes and you'll be golden. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I will get this put up, and I will see you later.